The first story is about a wife going to meet her lover. But without warning the cheater, the lover brought 3 more of his friends and took turns having sex with her. Watch to the end. Here we go. My name is Tatiana. I'm married. Sounds like a sentence. It's kind of depressing sometimes. It's like someone else's property. I've always resisted that attitude. I mean, not always. I even liked it right after we got married, but over time it became burdensome. No, I never regretted getting married. My husband earns good money. We have 2 children, a house, a car, a summer cottage. From time to time, we went on vacation, to the sea or to the countryside. Often we spend weekends in the countryside too. What else do you need to be happy? Nevertheless, I got a lover. He's also married, which means we're both in hiding. At least that ensured that I wouldn't get into any trouble. Well, about divorce or calling at inconvenient times. It's nice when 2 people have something to hide. It's better for me and my family. Only it wasn't easy to choose a place to meet, but we got through it. We had to make do in rented apartments or with acquaintances. A couple of times we had to rent a room in a hotel, but it was somehow not very ethical and safe. That night I told my husband that I would spend the night with a sick friend. He let me go without too much trouble. He trusts me, and for good reason. But I used his trust to the fullest, and this time, Volodya said that his friend had a free house today, and we could use it. And I went on another date. We met in the park on a bench. It's usually pretty deserted, so there's little chance of anyone catching my eye. It was our favorite place to meet. We didn't have to wait long. Just as I sat down, a familiar figure appeared among the trees. We exchanged the duty greeting and went along the alley. Volodya led me, and I obediently walked beside him. I could not tell from the outside that a pair of lovers were walking. After passing through the yards, we approached an inconspicuous house, ordinary 5-story box. The yard is cozy and not noisy. And most importantly, I probably do not know anyone here. There is no risk of exposure. We entered the staircase and went up to the 4th floor. The door of the apartment was usual. It was wooden. Volodya pressed the bell button. Is someone there? I was frightened. Yes, Seryoga is there. Do not worry, let's sit together for a while and take him out for a walk, he reassured me. There was the sound of the door being unlocked. On the threshold was a tall, well-built man. Oh, it's you. Come in. He stepped aside and we entered. There were 2 other men in the apartment. My mood soured. I was trying to keep our relationship a secret, and there were 3 witnesses. This was not part of my plans. Vova, let's go, I asked my boyfriend. Come on, now they'll leave and we'll be left alone. I crumpled, but silently agreed. I really wanted love and affection. I stayed. We went into the kitchen. It turned out that they were drinking here. There was a bottle of cognac on the table and an appetizer. Salads, cheese, sausage, and juice. Glasses, shot glasses, forks, things like that. Everything, as usual on such occasions. I reluctantly took a seat on the stool offered. I do not like to take part in such a feast. But I had to join. After a couple of shots of cognac with a poor appetizer, my head was blurry. My mind began to blur. Then Volodya stood up, took my hand, and led the way. I obediently followed him, like a doll. Volodya led me into a room. It looked like a bedroom. He started hugging me and kissing me. Wait, you said they would leave. I tried to resist. Let's wait until we're alone. Come on, they're all drunk. He wouldn't let up. No one's coming in here. They don't care about us right now. He started undressing me rather roughly. That's never happened to him before. I was shocked. What are you doing? I tried to reason with him. Not now. But he wouldn't listen to me. I still tried to push him away as he unbuttoned my blouse and then my shirt and bra. But when he put his hand up my skirt and unceremoniously reached under my panties, I almost stopped resisting. What was the point? That's what we'd come here for, so be what you will. I relaxed and stopped breaking. Volodya felt it immediately, and became more insolent and assertive. I was still lying motionless when Volodya clumsily got off me and began to pull my underpants back on. I didn't even move when he got up and walked slowly out of the room, zipping my fly as he went. He went out and shut the door behind him with the opaque glass. Alcohol and sex made him unbearably sleepy. Only dissatisfaction kept me awake. So I was about to fall asleep when suddenly the door opened abruptly and one of the men sitting at the table entered the room with quick steps. He was shirtless, with only his pants, which he unbuttoned as he went. A predatory and lustful smile shone on his face. His intentions were more than clear. I sat frightened on the bed and hastily began to cover my naked body with my clothes. I tried to cover my breasts with one hand and pulled my skirt down with the other. I instantly sobered up. It got a little uncomfortable, but the man was surprisingly nimble. He was beside me in one leap, and he toppled me onto my back again. I fell. Immediately, I was crushed by the heavy man's body, so hard that I could hardly move. I wanted to scream, but I realized it made no sense at all. Let go, now. I tried to push him away, but he paid no attention to my attempts. I resisted at first, but the man was so dang good, I was cramping and shaking. I got the most intense bliss I had ever experienced. I was lost in reality. When I woke up, the male was on top of me too. "You're really something," he said admiringly. I had never had that before. Finally, he got out of me, stood up, and slowly began to pull his clothes on. I lay there relaxed from the pleasure I had received, and only slightly adjusted my clothes, covering my nakedness a little. I didn't want to move at all, but it turned out that that was not all. As soon as he stepped out, another one appeared at the door. I shuddered. Only now did it dawn on me that they'd decided to take me in circles. It was my first time, so I wasn't thrilled. But the process had already begun, so there was no point in resisting. How could Volodya do this to me? My lover betrayed me, and he immediately pulled his boxers down to his knees, releasing his weapon, and piled on top of me. I tried to fight back sluggishly, realizing the futility of my attempts. It was more for propriety than sincerity. I wanted to show a semblance of decency, and, as was to be expected, to no avail. Then he slowly slid off me, breathing heavily, and reluctantly sat down on the edge of the bed. He didn't look at me at all, as if I weren't even here. Then he got up, pulled his panties back on, and took his time walking out of the room. Didn't even look at me as I was here. I lay there in the same position with my legs spread, but it was indifferent, especially since the next male appeared. It was, by my count, the last one. He was also wearing only his underpants, and clearly in a hurry, so in a second he jumped on top of me. I was lying still. I was pretty tired, and I didn't feel like doing anything. I just wanted it to be over soon, and to go home. So my mind was on something else too. He was also breathing heavily, sniffing, and jabbing at me with his tool. I just let him use me. I broke up with my lover. I didn't return his calls, and in response to his email threatening to tell my husband, I said I was meeting his wife and he shut up. I'd also found out that I was pregnant. My husband found a test and was very happy. If not for that, I would have had an abortion secretly from him. But I could not admit that I got pregnant while cheating with drunken men. I did not understand.
The following story is about the betrayal of his wife and best friend and how they regretted it so much. Make sure you watch it all the way to the end. You'll be shocked at how it ends. I met Masha at an apartment party of our mutual friends. They were both fun-loving and easygoing, so we quickly became close. The relationship began to develop rapidly. The date quickly turned into living together, and then the wedding was just around the corner. Our life together was bordering on perfect. Mashka was an exemplary wife and dinner, and a good girl in bed, and company at any get-togethers. The latter, by the way, more and more often. But my work during this period just went uphill, and I often stayed late. Gradually, this became a cause for disagreement, and sometimes it even led to serious quarrels. Genya, what's wrong? I complained to my best friend in a cafe after another argument. Still thinking, So, what if I could not go with her to the apartment party? She wasn't alone with you with Lenka. Well, I got held up at work, but I'm trying for both of us. How long have you been out with Masha? Tired sighed my companion. So all the time we go together. Just the other day went shopping together, then went for a walk. This is all everyday life. Jenya interrupted me. I would go to the movies with her, or at least brought her flowers in a cafe. Lenka was complaining all night long that she got no flowers and no gifts. You don't like her, she says, since you spend more time at work avoiding her. Oh, you're imagining things. No need to talk to me. I'm avoiding her. Actually, you're right, Jen. Flowers are a great step towards reconciliation. I'll start with them. Since that conversation, I've been paying more attention to my wife. Women are delicate creatures. If I didn't look closely enough, I fell out of love with her, and she fell out of love. My attempts were even successful, but it still wasn't enough. I was looking for a reason to surprise his wife, so she was no doubt my feelings. And the occasion has found. Just came close birthday, Masha. Here, I decided to get even with the full force. We came up with a surprise party at our place. To get together, to sit together, like in the good old days. We thought of a program with a cake, balloons, presents. Well, everything as it should be. And I sent my wife to the beauty parlor first thing in the morning. A special day after all. Let her hang out. Shortly before the day X, I hinted to my wife that we will celebrate her day. I didn't specify how. So when we on the way back from the salon turned to the house, she was a little sad. However, all sadness instantly dispelled. It was worth it when we went up to the apartment with Masha's birthday. We heard as soon as the switch clicked in the hallway. My wife's face immediately lit up with a smile, and she hung gratefully on my neck. Everything was going just fine. Dancing, songs, happy conversations, and delicious food. Delivery of gifts also passed with flying colors. Masha was especially pleased with a year's subscription to the dance studio from me. How did you guess that? I've been looking at their schedule for a month and still haven't made up my mind. My wife cooed as she hugged the season ticket tenderly. You guessed it, and you said I wasn't paying attention. I take it back. Happy Mashka kissed me on the cheek. I was very glad that I was able to impress his wife, and it was Jenya suggested, helped me. Here he is the best friend. A couple of hours passed. The guests were already relaxed from the champagne and a little tired from dancing. I decided that it was time to bring the birthday cake. I asked Masha to remove some of the dishes from the table. Jenya volunteered to help her and keep her busy at the same time, while I bring the cake from the balcony and light candles. And so almost everything was ready. But it turned out that I forgot the most important thing, a lighter. I went into the kitchen to get the lighter and warned Jenya that Masha must be held hostage for a couple more minutes. It turned out that Jenya was doing just fine even without my warning. The main surprise of the evening was not prepared for my wife, but just me. Jenya, I didn't have time to finish talking for a couple more minutes. When I entered, my best friend and my wife, as if caught by teenagers, quickly bounced off each other. For several seconds, I stood silently in the aisle, transferring my gaze from frightened and slightly shot Masha on no less frightened Jenya, who tried to say something, but could not pick up the words. An avalanche of understanding of everything that happened and the advice and the coldness of his wife, and even the gift, with which suddenly so helpfully helped. I rushed to my friend, and with all the anger that overwhelmed me punched him right in the face. And then the commotion, my friends trying to pull me away from Jenya, Masha sobbing, some of the other girls screaming, and the sound of broken dishes. Later, I woke up in my room with a bottle in my hand. The party was a success. Masha arrived the next day and packed her things. We both knew that this was the end and that the divorce was coming. We met up with Jenya and talked a couple of weeks later. It turned out that on that unfortunate evening when Masha and I got involved, I wasn't the only one who liked her. My friend did not want to interfere, seeing as how things were developing between us. However, his wife herself tried to cross paths with him more and more often. When I started staying late at work, Genya tried to avoid her at first, but he couldn't resist for long. Do they communicate now? I did not find out. Just like that, a fun party. Surprise turned into a bitter disclosure. In one day, I lost both my wife and my best friend. Our friends turned their backs on both Masha and Xenia. We became afraid that one of them would get into someone else's family. I also hated surprises and noisy company from that night on, and I was more careful in my choice of friends and companions. Wrapping up for today is the story of an unscrupulous wife cheating on her husband. And after all the cheating, she went back to her husband as if nothing had happened. Revenge is sweet for her. I've always been an avid hunter. It's a longtime passion of mine. After I got married, I went hunting less often, but I couldn't give it up altogether. And my wife had nothing against my hobby. The main thing was that everything had to be in moderation. Up to a certain point, we had a pretty happy family, and they were the kind of people who traced their couch to the holes. You could never tell from the housework. Yes, and often cooked dinner myself. We spent most weekends together. However, it was fine for us to spend time apart as well. I could go to a bar with friends, go hunting. Dasha spent that time with her friends. But I guess I missed something after all. The day I left for the hunt, nothing foretold trouble. It was business as usual. My wife helped me pack my backpack. We chatted and joked. I'm waiting for you with the loot. Maybe you'll give me something nice to eat. You know I'm light. I'm not coming. As a last resort, I'll take you to a restaurant. I went hunting with my two friends Nikita and Oleg, and Nikita took his good friend Yuri with him. I was pleased with the company. The weather is excellent. Well, what else do you need? Well, here began the most interesting. On hunting, we planned to spend 2-3 days. We had long ago traced the places. We knew where to spend the night, who we could stay with, and we had tents. And here we were sitting around the fire in the evening. After supper, we drank a little. And at this time, Yuri, for some reason, decided to open up. And his choice was me. Why did he make that choice? It's still a mystery to me. His story was as old as the world. He and his wife had been estranged for a long time. They lived as neighbors. So out of boredom, he decided to have a mistress. They used to work together, and they had to code together. But a few months ago, he was transferred to another branch of the company. You have no idea how hot she is, and she doesn't ask me to do anything. She's married. Well, that's very convenient for me. Frankly, I was bored to hear the confession of this self-taught womanizer, but I was not allowed to send him up. And so this Yuri began to make a description of his mistress. And apparently, at this time, my face expressed complete sarcasm. Do you not believe me? My disbelief clearly spurred him on. At this point, he looked for his phone. I'll show you her pictures, and you'll see how beautiful she is. She posed for me. He took out his phone, rummaged through it, and handed it to me. When I took it in my hands and looked at the screen, all my feelings were mixed into a huge lump of anger, shock, surprise, hatred, and not understanding what was happening. In the nude, I froze with the phone in my hands for a few seconds and could no longer hear what Yuri was saying. After that, the phone flew into the fire. Yurka tried to jump on me with shouting, but flew away all the way to the tent. I wasn't going to fight him, but he was very aggressive. Well, that was understandable. His phone was clearly beyond repair. Nikita and Oleg separated us. When Yuri finally realized it was my wife, his anger subsided. But how was I supposed to know it was your wife? He tried to babble something, but it came out very badly. I warned him not to come near me again, unless he wanted to lose something else besides his phone. And his friends, when they found out what was going on, they took him away from me. I stayed up all night sitting around the campfire. In the morning, we went home. Well, what could be the continuation of the hunt after such a thing? And when I came home, Dashka was very surprised. What happened? Nothing special happened. I just met your lover on the hunt, who was telling me all about you. Are you delusional? What kind of joke is that? Unfortunately, I'm as truthful as I've ever been. She listened to me. I didn't say a word. And now what? She finally asked. Nothing. Nothing. It's over. We are divorced. Such a wife I do not want. So you're just going to ruin everything that we had. That is our relationship. You're the one who destroyed it. When she had her lover, she went into the other room and closed the door. I guess she thought I'd complain and go make up. But imagine how I might have felt at that moment. I didn't want to not see her or hear her. After sitting in the room for a while, she still had to come out. I give you a couple of days to pack your things and get out of my apartment. And tomorrow, I'll file for divorce. In response to my words were followed by crying and wailing. But I didn't care anymore. We were divorced pretty quickly. And the answer, as Dasha flew quickly too. With her lover, she broke up, which was to be expected. After all, he has a family, and he didn't need the extra stress. She had to leave her job too, and she had to leave it. She had to go to her parents in her native mountains. She no longer had a job or a place to live here. And as far as I know, her parents were not very happy to see her back. So you see, even strong families fall apart. And even an exemplary wife may not really be exemplary. You always have to keep your nose in the wind, or there will be surprises like mine.